Oh, hey. Welcome to the Dad Challenge podcast. My name is Josh, and I just got a haircut. Thank you for noticing. Shout out to Sport Clips, because those ladies apparently watch this show. So thanks for doing my hair. You're awesome. My kids love when you cut their hair. It was great times. Anyway, today we are getting into something that's going to be just another form of child exploitation. We're going to talk today about the Cuties debacle. Before we get into all that, you guys know that I'm a huge advocate against child exploitation, right? I think that child exploitation is probably some of the worst human behavior that happens on earth. It has been happening since the dawn of time. Child trafficking is super prevalent, if not more now than ever. Okay? It happens a lot and we don't talk about it enough. And it happens on a deep, dark level in the dark web and in the forefront of society. And it happens through adoptions like we see with Micah and James Stauffer. Even if it's low level, it's still child trafficking. There's no good child trafficking. There's no like levels of it. Either you're doing it or you're not. And if you are, you're an asshole and you should literally be put in prison for the rest of your life for it. That's how we're going to start this. So if you don't know anything about the Cuties debacle, Google it. When I did, I got this. And I wish this is what we were talking about because these look delicious, okay? But we're talking about this. Netflix came out with this trailer like the internet went bananas. Netflix has done some crazy stuff because they know the marketing. They know how they tend to do this. They've gotten so much free advertising for this. They've done it in the past, and a lot of times they just ignore it. They don't really care. This time they must have been major backlash from like a lot of people. But we're going to talk today about the kind of nuance of this whole thing in the prevalence of our culture with like body shaming and all this stuff. And I'm going to read you some tweets I found. And there's a Facebook group called A Hill to Die On, and there's a guy who came out in support of this movie, and he just got ratioed like nobody's business. Okay, because everybody knows. Not everybody. People with a conscience and a heart and that are human know that child exploitation is wrong on every level. Not even a little bit of it. It's always wrong. And we're going to get into all of it today. It is going to be a fiery episode. Stick around. It's going to get crazy. Right. I don't know if you guys watch my videos right to the end, but generally the good stuff comes out as I start ranting. So you're going to want to hold on and wait till the end of these videos because that's where I get into it. Netflix came out with this. I'm not going to show you the preview because I'll probably get copyright strike. But basically you can go watch it yourself. Basically this movie is Karate Kid with twerking. Okay. That's from what the trailer shows me. It's basically the plot of Karate Kid, a poor kid who's not, his mom doesn't want to do karate and doesn't want, wants to study. Or it's basically the story of Sister Act 2, which is my wife's favorite movie. Lauryn Hill's mom doesn't want her to sing. She wants her to study. She thinks singing is a waste of time, blah, blah, blah. And it's cultural, blah, blah, blah. And she just thinks it's, whatever. And then she sees her sing at the end in tears and everybody's happy and they're famous and all that stuff, right? This is basically Karate Kid with twerking. This girl who's a Muslim who lives in a probably a fundamental Muslim home wants to dance. She's found this passion for dance from what I've gathered from the trailer, okay? And she finds these little girls dancing or doing something and she's like, I want to be in your team. And they're like, we're going to nationals or whatever they call it. We're going to go to this competition. It's always about a competition, right? These movies are always about a competition. I've been to sports competitions. They're not as flashy as this ever, unless, I don't know, maybe in the States it's a little different. Canadian competitions like, oh, that was nice. I paid $15 to sit here and like my kid did like 5 seconds of trampolining and I paid $185 for him to do that and then he lost. That's basically what happens here. Anyway, I digress. So basically the movie is this girl, her mom's like, there's the turning point in the trailer, her mom slaps her. And it's like, how dare you? This 11-year-old now decides she's going to go be empowered to steal money from her mom, and they're going to this tournament and they're doing this against all odds. She's 11. She knows what she wants to do with her life. And there's a conversation to be had here. For the amount of things that liberals, like really, really, really left liberals, want their kids to be able to choose to do with their lives. And there's this argument back and forth. Transgender is one of the biggest ones right now, allowing kids to choose who they're going to be in their gender and all that stuff. And I know personally of a story of a 4-year-old who this parent is like, we're going to let you choose this. And so that's a bigger overall conversation here. But the tighter conversation here is about child exploitation and hypersexualization of children. Danielle Cohn is a big story happening right now. I've got an interview with Virginia waiting in the wings. We're going to talk about that a lot more. Micah Stauffer with H, 8 Passengers. All these YouTube channels, okay? At some level are exploiting their kids, regardless whether or not you think they do it right or not. They're all exploiting their kids. Exploitation is humongous. And I almost want to say right now that exploitation is low-level trafficking. It may not be that you are trafficking in the movement of a child to somewhere else, but you're trafficking their image for people's consumption. We're going to talk today about how it's also helping maps normalize their lifestyle, which is the scariest thing, and you all should be very scared of this. Minor attracted people are starting to emerge from their shells, from their parents' basements, from their dirty, disgusting lives. They're trying to figure out how to normalize it so they can start living out in the open. And this cannot continue to happen, because this is what happens when you let all biology and science and everything fall to the ground. That's a different conversation. It's not politics. I'm just saying, when you let everything fall and all truths that we've always known fall, and it's no longer there anymore, this is what happens to society. It falls apart. And then the creepiest, grossest, most disgusting, vile, evil part of human nature comes out to the forefront, because now they're allowed to, because it's almost celebrated. Okay? This has got me fired up, because this is a bigger narrative. Cuties is a bigger narrative of one more benchmark towards even more human terribleness. So the movie is twerking. It's Karate Kid with twerking. Okay, so as far as I know, some people come out online and say, no, the movie is about calling out that exploitation and how bad it is. But the trailer doesn't show that. The trailer shows these girls dancing and twerking in super inappropriate posters and all this stuff. It's just not what the trailer shows. So I cannot comment in the end. I think Netflix came out, or somebody came out with a thing, oh, it won a Sundance Award, so it can't be that bad. Okay, it's a movie with 11-year-old girls in it that is rated 18 plus. So it is not for kids, but it is filmed with kids, with children, okay? So we got to figure out how Hollywood can justify this, because they're clearly an adult situation movie where they're not going to the kids aren't supposed to be watching this, but these are children acting. And another fact is that they went through 650 kids to get the actors in this film, which says a lot, because I think parents probably... And don't forget, it's French. It's not English, not American. It's not Western. It's different. So basically, what I'm hearing here, and I could be wrong, is that these parents get their kids into that. Oh, we want to hire your kid. The parents find out what the movie is, and they're like, oh no. And any parent worth their salt should be that parent. So it went through 650 kids to find parents that were cool enough to exploit their kids in this movie. Okay, that's what I'm gathering so far. I have not seen the movie. It's not out yet. And I'm sure we're all going to watch it to figure out if we're all right or wrong, because they're not really telling us. And Netflix is doing this on purpose, because we're talking about it and everybody's going to watch it. It's going to get major play, and we know it. Okay, Netflix comes out with this apology right here. They say, "We're deeply sorry for the inappropriate artwork that we used for Mignon/Cuties. It was not okay, nor was it representative of this French film which won an award at Sundance. We've now updated the pictures and description." So they came out, just because it won an award doesn't mean it's inappropriate. It's not inappropriate. That's the stupidest argument I've ever heard for this already. And we haven't even seen it or heard any more of the plot. We've only been given what the trailer has given us. And if this producer or this writer or whoever wrote this book or this movie is coming out and truly saying that we're trying to expose child exploitation, then I guess we're all going to be stood corrected. But as far as Netflix is concerned, they've come out with this different view of this whole thing. And they're like, it's not indicative. So who let this happen, and who's being fired? Because I want to know. Somebody needs to be fired. So the internet's up in arms. We're all explosive. We're all done. So the movie, that's as far as we know about this. And then the arguments are just going gangbusters about this thing. And lots of tweets happening. I'm not going to read them all. I just got a couple here that I found. So Alex Elias writes, "The whole industry of preteen dance is wildly inappropriate. This is a movie about that industry. What else would they put on the cover? This is something that exists in reality. It's pretty disturbing and should probably change. But maybe this film will raise awareness." So he's trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, and maybe here's a point where I'll try to give it the benefit of the doubt. But it's not. I don't know how to give this the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it is, and I hope it is, but based on what we're seeing, it's still, no matter what, there's exploitation of these young minors on TV dancing super hypersexually. You just can't get around the reality of there's actual actors who have to act these parts. So it's a reality that they're doing it, okay? It's not, a film isn't made up unless it's animated, okay? It's there. This is happening. But he's got a good point here. Alex says, "The whole industry of preteen dance is wildly inappropriate." Holy, I know lots of kids who are in dance. My daughter's in dance, and they're kind of in like they're not sexualized. But there is this preteen hip hop dance style culture of like is wildly inappropriate. Okay, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. We're gonna talk about pageants and everything else that goes into all this stuff. So here's an article that says, "How did you cast the 11-year-old female lead Fathia Yusuf Abdiyallah Okay, this is a question for the director. The casting process was a saga, he says. We spent over 6 months and saw 650 candidates, and it was only the very last hour of the day that we found Fadia. It was really an emotional moment. Okay, so he says that, and then the last tweet I'm going to show you guys here is from Netflix customer service. Someone had wrote them and said, "How does a movie sexualizing children get approved? Who signed off on this?" Netflix says, "We understand that not all stories may appeal to all our viewers, which is why we always invest in a diverse range of content from all over the world. We also provide ratings, synopsis, trailers, and controls to help our members make the right viewing choices for themselves and their families." And then he wrote, "Do you support," and then he also writes, "A simple yes or no will suffice." Then Netflix writes, "We cannot really comment on that, but while we believe in creative freedom at Netflix, we respect all religions and their cultures, traditions, and values." Is there a religion that I'm not aware of? And if there is, burn it to the ground. Okay? Netflix is shirking responsibility here. You should be up in arms about this. A lot of you are women, are my viewers, and there's this other narrative that we are all afraid to talk about. Well, especially men specifically. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm a father of a daughter. We need to talk about this. Putting our kids out to the world in these dance competitions, in these cheerleading competitions, in all of these competitions like gymnastics. We talked about this from Athlete A. Why do you have to dress in super nothingness? Like, especially Athlete A, why do you have to wear a bathing suit to jump on a trampoline or to jump to do backflips and everything else? And a lot of women are like, well, you don't want to be restricted. And I sort of get that. But the men don't wear bathing suits. You know, they don't got their budgie smuggling outfits on. They actually wear a onesie singlet. Why can't women wear that? There's no argument to be made that you can't tell me that I'm wrong about the hypersexualization of children in dance and sport. I'm sorry, it happens in high school volleyball. It's the same thing. In high school sports, women are hypersexualized in sports because it brings viewers. I'm sorry if you think I'm wrong about that. It is absolutely right. We all know the word from the 50s onward. Sex sells. Always has, always will. But the problem is here, guys. Yeah, it sells. But we should not be utilizing our children to sell that. And this happens so much. Bang energy drinks. These asshat, douche canoe, dickweeds use underage women to sell their drinks. I don't like these people, and you should cancel them at every chance they get. They use Danielle Cohn underage to sell their drinks. And they're just a bunch of disgusting, gross people. Anyway, okay, so that's just one example of many where this happens. Movies, Disney, it all happens. Exploitation and sexualization of children is prevalent, and it is almost accepted. I know I'm a guy. I'm telling you this. One guy came out in support of this on the Hill to Die On in a Facebook group. He came out in support. And the overwhelming majority of everybody said, listen, douche nozzle, this is an 11-year-old child. These are 11-year-olds. They are not adults. We need to make sure this doesn't happen. So let's go back. Let's talk about pageants. Why is this a thing? Why do we dress our tiny little girls up to look exactly like full-grown women with the makeup, the eyelashes, the fake teeth and everything? Why is this culturally acceptable? If you can answer me that down in the comments, and some of you will have probably great explanations of why it's cool to do it, you will never convince me it's cool to do it. Okay? It is not cool to turn a little innocent girl to look like a full-grown woman. They are not full-grown women. Stop this. Stop it, okay? Cheerleading, same thing. These cheerleaders wear next to nothing. Dancing, their skirts flying up in the air. My wife was in figure skating when she was young. They have to wear, they do the little thing where their skirt flies up and their bum hangs out. This happens in cheerleader, in skating young too. There is so much of this, guys. Okay? This is so dangerous. Cuties is just the next benchmark. And this is why I'm scared of it. Because you've got people like Danielle Cohn and her mother who is exploiting her for money, big time money. And you're going to see an interview with Virginia soon about some real deep stuff that we've never even talked about yet, about the inside, the back end of everything that's going on in that story. Most of this is about money. A lot of it is about predators. What's happening with this world of where we're accepting this or saying if you are against this, then you are patriarchal and you are slut shaming and you should be burned at the stake and canceled forever. Cancel me. I'm never going to agree with you that this is cool. You're never going to get me on your side for this. Not going to happen. If you're of age, of consent to do what you want with your body, I will celebrate with you. If you want to show me everything, I will look. Okay? It's your choice to do that. Okay, if you want people to ingest those images of you and you're cool with that and it makes you feel empowered and all that stuff, more power to you. I'm on board. Do what you got to do. Let's celebrate our bodies. Let's celebrate beautiful people and celebrate the things that we love beautifully, okay? I'm cool with it. but just not children. Come on. If you're not on board with this with me, there's something wrong with you. Even if you think it's a cultural narrative that's like, well, you're going to set us back and we got to make sure that we're cool with telling these young girls that they're okay, should be okay with your bodies and should be okay at this young age. No. Because you're basically telling them that's okay. But why can't we also tell them that modesty is okay? Why does it always have to be like, well, if you want to be super hypersexualized and wear bikinis and do all these crazy twerking dances and all that stuff, that's cool. You do you. That is not a narrative that we should be perpetuating in our culture. Am I going crazy here? Am I the only one seeing this? That this is becoming more widely acceptable? And so it's becoming normalized. And this is why I'm scared, because again, Cuties is now going to become a benchmark and a conversation for people to be like, well, let's talk about it. And if we relent on this ability as parents and as people who care about child exploitation, if we relent on this, if we let this part go, the next step is going to be way more dangerous. And here's why. Because you've got people called MAPs. And MAPs are minor attracted people. They are predators. Okay? Now, this is a very, very, very scary thing for kids. Because kids are so easily manipulated. And these guys they have to be predators in the world that they live in. Because if they're minor attracted, regardless whether or not you believe it's biological or not, because I think even I've heard stories and studies that it actually is biological, which to me is mind-blowing, okay? But I could be wrong about that. I just heard inklings of it in a study. I'm just saying, if you're this person and you can't help it, which the world perpetuates this narrative. You do you. You are who you are. The fringes on the right say, no, we have to stick to biology. It has to be binary. The middle says, okay, I'm going to look at this from both ways. Okay, if you want to be a boy because you think that you're a boy, that's cool. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't hurt me. You do you and be the person you're going to be that makes you happy. Okay? And that's a harder conversation because the middle kind of sits there a lot. Right? They might lean a little bit right, a little bit left, but they'll sit there and say, okay, it doesn't affect me so much. It's not going to bother me much. Then you get the fringes on the left that say, if this person wants to do whatever they want, you let them do it. Parents have no say in this and blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't even tell your kids what to do. There are people on the left that think that a kid should be able to be fully autonomous and do whatever the hell they want at all times. And they push these the left and the right fringes push these crazy, crazy fundamental narratives because they know that it'll give you a little bit. You'll get they know they won't get the full ask of what they're saying. And they know it's not true what they're saying either. They won't get the full ask, but they'll get a little bit pushed and they'll get a little bit more. And then they'll push a little bit more and then they'll push a little bit more and push a little bit more until one crazy thing that we used to think was normal, like biology of sex, is now on a spectrum. Not gender, sex. Literally people out there saying that sex is not binary biologically. Okay, so we get to this point where we push these boundaries and then when people start giving and giving and giving and giving and giving on both sides, okay? Another video, another day. But I'm saying I sit in the middle. You do you. I'm going to be the person that loves you and supports you no matter what. But if you're exploiting your kids, I will not support you. If you're a MAP, I'm not going to support you, okay? There are things that we cannot support. And if we let these fringes push really hard for these little bits of leeway, eventually the walls crumble and break down and then it just becomes normalized and then predators are literally allowed to do what they want to our children. We all know the Cone story. We all know that if you ask a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, do you want to be on Instagram making a bunch of money and be an influencer? Of course they're going to say yes. A predator will do the same thing. They literally can just convince a kid through money, through wealth, through fame, whatever. They do this. This happens and it's prevalent and we don't talk about it enough. So this movie represents a benchmark of that fringe on the left pushing in to say, no, this should be normalized. This is good. This is good. This is good. They know they're not going to get the whole thing, but they know they're going to take an extra step in. Now, the LGBTQ whatever community does not want MAPS to be a part of them, but MAPS is pushing really hard to become a part of that community, to say, look, if you're cool with you doing you, being whatever you please in the spectrum that are of genders and of ideologies and identities, then you need to let us be a part of this because this is our identity. This is who we are. And by saying all those things that you're allowed to do all those things, you need to let us in. Okay? And this is so scary. If you normalize this behavior and allow it to be prevalent in the world that we live in, you are never going to allow to let your kids go out ever again. And I'm not even joking. I'm not even being facetious or trying to be funny here. You're not going to allow your kids to go out anymore. It's getting scary. 11-year-old twerking on camera is not a liberating video. Even if she has a plot line or some kind of underlying theme where she's trying to uncover it and say this is not okay. Because what we see is not, okay? It's not liberating. And those people who are sticking up for these little girls dancing like this and sticking up for people, even for people like Danielle Cohn and what Jennifer's doing to her and all that stuff, you're not okay, okay? And the majority of the middle of people who have brains, who are parents, who love their children, okay, who literally invest themselves into their children and want to see what's best for their children, no parent worth their salt who wants to see their child succeed will let their kid do any of this. Let your children be kids. When the interview comes with Virginia, one of the biggest things we talked about is that Danielle never got to be a kid. Okay? It's just, if your kids grow up on YouTube, they don't really get to be kids. They're always on. They're always different people, and you're always seeing you as a different person. So this is this whole arching narrative here. It is not liberating. This is not a liberating moment for women. Okay? It actually leads to more child trafficking and more dangerous situations for minors. We cannot let this continue to be pushed in. These benchmarks change. The goalposts move for what's okay. That's what's happening. They keep moving the goalposts for what's okay. And then all of a sudden it's like, what the hell happened? You think Epstein got to where he was without the goalposts being moved in this modern day that we live in? You think that would have been okay back in the day? I know this, that minor attracted people or whatever, because I don't want to say the P word. I'm going to keep blanking it out because I get flagged. I know this has happened time and time again for all of eternity, but the Epstein story doesn't happen without the benchmarks and the goalposts being moved. It doesn't happen without being protected by the upper echelons of people who partake in these things. So as parents, we need to be outraged. We need to continue to call this out, and we need to make sure that we are calling people like Netflix out. Netflix, it's not okay for you to put this out there. You should not even put this movie out there. Okay? If it is what we think it is, it just doesn't need to be out there. Let's stop the child exploitation, because it feels like we're taking 10 steps backwards every time when the protection of kids, when something like this happens. And it's just like that next thing. We have to tell our kids that it's not okay too, because what are these people that are coming out saying that this is okay? Who taught them that this is like liberation for women? Who taught them that narrative? Where is that narrative coming from? Because this is not liberating. Okay, this is not a liberating for an 11-year-old to do whatever the hell they please on the internet for grown men and disgusting perverts to watch. I'm sorry. That is not liberating for anybody. And then the argument can be made is like, well, you know what? You're never going to be able to stop predators from doing what they want. So, why should I have to change what I do? And so it's not on me. You're right. It's not on you, but it's also on you to protect your children. We're not talking about adults here. Okay. There's a conversation to be had for like, for what you wear, back in the day, if you wore something inappropriate, then people are like, well, yeah, you were asking for it. It's not like that anymore. And we know that's not like that anymore. But these are kids, guys, kids. These are not adults who can consent. That's the problem here. So don't normalize this. Don't allow this to be a normal thing. You need to use your social media currency right now at this moment to tweet at Netflix to say, you need to take this down. This cannot come out to the public. We need to make sure that we're not normalizing this. Even if it is a movie that is against exploitation or this twerking culture for underage girls, because I doubt it will be. Okay, and so if Netflix comes out and says, no, it's cool, it's not what you think, and then it is what we think, what have we done? How many kids are going to watch this movie? How many kids are going to watch this movie? And if they say, well, it's not for kids, it doesn't matter, it's for kids. Look at WAP, Cardi B's new video, which caused a huge stir. Another narrative for women's liberation. Sure, do it again. I'm for adults. And Cardi B is one of the most disgusting people on earth. I don't care what you say out there. She is disgusting. And she's talking politics. And you know how many underage girls follow her and want to be like her? Okay? Cardi B is the worst of them all. And doing the song WAP might be liberating for women as adults who are, I like that because it's liberating. We can now talk about what we want and be disgusting because men do it too. And she's right. They are right. There are so many disgusting hip hop songs out there that do the opposite and no one calls them on it. And they still do it. And they're right. That shouldn't be allowed to. And so they're trying to equate it with like, well, men do it, so we do it. Okay, fine. But how about we all don't do it? Okay? How about we all just treat everybody with respect, and women and men with respect? But what Cardi B is doing, moving the goalposts again to say, no, this is liberating. If you want to do this and be this hypersexualized person and live free and do whatever you want and do whatever you please, fine, as you're an adult. But we cannot forget who's watching. And if you don't think underage kids are watching, you are absolutely effing wrong, and everybody knows it. Industry uses it. YouTube, all these industries know who they're targeting. They know how to reach them. They know who's ingesting this content, and they know it's kids. So if you're not careful, the benchmark is going to move so far beyond the point that when your kids now have kids, that there are going to be maps prevalent in the LGBTQA spectrum, and they're going to be out there, and the laws will change to support them. Like the laws have changed to support people of the spectrum, especially of transgender in Canada. If you misgender somebody, you could go to jail. The laws have changed. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying the laws have changed for things that we used to think was unheard of. That there's no way 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you said in 30 years, there's going to be a spectrum of genders in the hundreds. People are going to choose genders from different 50, 60, 70 different genders. And sex is not going to be binary. If you said that 30 years ago, you would be laughed out of the room. The rules and the laws have changed to allow this for good or bad. Okay, I'm not commenting whether or not I believe it's good or bad, because there's a nuance of human nature into this whole thing. Okay, as a parent, it does worry me. Okay. But we will never, ever, and I know they said this 30 years ago, allow MAPS, minor attracted people, to be normalized. We cannot allow it. And that is what the problem here is. And that's the underlying issue. As a cultural, as a parent, as everything else, I'm going to teach my kids to love everybody. That's an answer to everything. And so I will tell my daughter that when she gets old enough to dress how she pleases, that it's not on you how a guy sees you. Okay, it's not on you. You're not to blame for how they feel in their bodies and how they treat you. It's on them, and that's a great cultural shift. And I tell my boys, it's like it's on you to be the gentleman. It's on you to be the guy that treats women with respect no matter what. And that is something we are teaching kids, and I love it. But at the same time, it's also on me as a parent to not hypersexualize my child and put them out for the world to ingest, for predators to look up. I'm just saying, I know they're out there, but why give it to them? If you know what's happening, why would you why? If you knew there's a peeping Tom across your street, or a predator that lives on your street who's a registered predator, and you know they live there, okay? You're gonna let your kid kind of play in their yard and be friends with them? You're not going to. You're not gonna let your kid out in a bikini if you know a predator lives next door to you. You know people are ingesting these types of things. It's better to be safe than sorry, is all I'm saying, right? I know it's not their responsibility, your responsibility for those people's actions. But just protect your kids. It's about protecting them. You will protect them if you know something's going to happen to them. And so just because you can't see this hidden disgustingness doesn't mean it's not happening, because it is. And so speak up about this. Use your social media currency. Cancel this movie before it gets out there. Okay? We cannot continue to move the goalposts, because it's going to get dangerously close to a world where we live with predators open and out, and the laws will change in favor of them. Wow. Didn't think that was going to go down that many roads. But geez, okay? This is something I'm passionate about as a father of a daughter specifically. That's so scary for me. And again, it's generally with women. It's with little girls that this happens. So it's not always with men, and it does happen with boys too. It's just not as much. And so people with daughters, protect your effing daughters. Let them have a childhood. Let them be normal. Stop putting your kids in pageants and in sexualized dance competitions. Wait till they're at least 15 or something. I don't even that's young to me, I guess. I don't know. It's just, can we stop? Like, please. Or unless you have an argument to be made where that's okay, I'm willing to hear it, I guess, but it's going to take you a lot of convincing to tell me that it's okay to put your kid in a child pageant or in a dance routine or wear these outfits like they wear in cheerleading and like in dance and all these things. You're not going to convince me, I don't think. Maybe you will. I don't know. I'm open to being taught, to having my mind changed, but as a father of a daughter, good luck. Anyway, like and subscribe, hit the little bell. We're going to have something soon where you can sign up for a text so you can get messages when videos come out, because YouTube's kind of dropping the ball and all that stuff like they do with child exploitation too. So make sure that you're sticking around to watch till the end of all these videos, because there's a lot of the good stuff comes out at the end when I get fiery. So make sure you do. Join me tomorrow night at around 9:30-ish. We do a fireside question and answer. I answer all your questions. We get into it. People ask me if I was manscaping. So it's just kind of a one-on-one with me where you guys can ask me anything. Sometimes I bust out the guitar, we'll sing, but there's a fire and we chill, and it's a great place. A lot of people just go to relax. They don't even chat. They just hang out. They just chill. They love the space. Some people come in for some support. They're going through stuff. And there's just a supportive community in my chats that is really, really, really cool. And you want to be a part of it. Pick up a t-shirt below at Teespring. Get one of those Chachi shirts, or you can get yourself an I Love Dad Bod shirt. There's Not My Jam shirts, lots of shirts. Join my Patreon, patreon.com/the Dad Challenge, or join the YouTube membership where you get cool little icons and you can chat and you become part of the cool club. And there's lots of cool stuff. You get early videos, you get early content, you get custom content. There's lots of cool stuff. The Dad Challenge, we will send you out care packages if you sign up for that tier. Once a month, we'll send you some cool stuff. It's awesome. We got lots going on, lots in the works. I'm definitely pumped for what's happening on this channel and that you guys keep watching, and I really, really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the Virginia interview. I'm hoping to get that out tomorrow. That is going to be, we talk about some crazy stuff that I found out I was just mind-blowing to me. You are not going to want to miss that. Stick around for that. Thanks for watching. You're my therapy. I love you. Oh, what a crazy story. What a crazy world we're living in. So just protect your kids.